Hello, beautiful souls, and welcome back to the Intuitive Podcast. This podcast is dedicated to helping you connect and understand your intuition and your energy. My name is Mimi. I'm an intuitive coach and a natural therapist. Today's topic is Earth Angels. I know that many of us have heard about celestial angels. You know, the ones that we imagine sitting in heaven on a cloud, playing the harp, and watching over us. Those celestial angels have many gifts to offer humans, such as love, healing, guidance, etc. But today's topic is about Earth Angels, and they're a little different than celestial angels. Earth Angels will show up when we need them the most, and often in difficult times where we need reassurance, comfort, and in many other situations where we just need to have that loving touch, that loving energy surrounding us. I don't know if you've ever met an Earth Angel, but if you have, I would love nothing better than to read about your experience, so feel free to share it with me. And if you haven't met an Earth Angel, I'm pretty sure that one day you'll be able to encounter one. Today I'd like to share my story with you about my first encounter with an Earth Angel. I was a teenager, and I had decided I was going to go on my first road trip alone. A friend of mine had moved 6 hours away from me. I had never been out of my village. I had never been out of my comfort zone. I had never visited any other cities, etc. But because my friend had moved 6 hours away and because she had called me, I decided that night after work, I would head over to her place. I took the time to sit at the end of my table and mark the route I had to follow on my paper map, because back then we didn't have GPS, with a red marker. I figured it would help me to figure out which route to follow, and I figured this way at least I knew how I was going to get there. Back then we didn't have cell phones, we had beepers. So somebody would call you, leave their number, and it would mean that you had to call them back. But if you didn't have a phone, there was no calling them back. So after dinner that night, I put my bags in the back of my vehicle. I brought plenty of water with me, and off I went. Because I was a teenager, I didn't give much thought to what if something happens along the way. I just had just enough money on me to get there and get back. I had just enough water to get to her house, and I hadn't even planned on stopping anywhere. I just figured 6 hours I could drive there and without any problem. After a while, I started getting a little bit nervous because I didn't recognize the roads. I had never been in those cities, and I didn't know anyone. And because I left so late, it started getting dark really fast. 4 hours into the trip, I ended up on a dirt road. I kept hoping and praying that I would get to my friend in time before she went to bed, because I didn't want to have to wake her up. And as time progressed, I kept hoping that would be soon, meaning that I would get there soon. Half an hour into being on that dirt road, I ended up with a flat tire. I didn't know how to change a tire. I hadn't seen anybody on that road for almost an hour. So I decided I would pull over and wait to see if somebody would show up. After all, that's all I could do. There was no houses around me, a lot of trees. It was very dark. And to be quite honest, I was very scared. I waited and waited, and then all of a sudden, from a distance, I could see headlights heading my way. But when I saw the headlights, instead of being Reassured, I started getting even more scared because I kept thinking, what if this is a man? What if it's someone that's not nice? What if it's somebody that's going to hurt me, right? I mean, we all listen to the news and it's never good news. So, of course, my imagination just took whatever went through my head and ran with it. The next thing I knew, the vehicle pulled behind me and I noticed that it was a truck. The person wasn't turning off the lights on the vehicle. So I was blinded. I couldn't make out if it was a woman or a man, and it took a few seconds before I realized it was a woman. She looked at me with such a beautiful smile. It was so reassuring to see her. She asked me what the problem was, and I told her I have a flat tire and I have no clue how to change it. She asked me if I had a spare tire, and again, I had no clue if I had one. She just giggled and went and looked in the back of my vehicle, and there was a spare tire. So she proceeded to go on over to her truck and to grab a jack. She walked over to my car, looked at me, and there was so much kindness in her eyes. She changed the tire and asked me where I was heading, and I told her. She told me I was very brave to go on this first road trip on my own, but that I should be careful. I thanked her for the advice, and she continued changing my tire. I offered her some money. I didn't have much, but I offered her some money because I wanted to show her just how much I appreciated what she was doing. She told me not to worry about it, that I could pay it forward and help the next person that needs a hand. She finished changing my tire, put the flat tire in the back of my vehicle, went back to the back of her truck and put the jack in it. I still decided at that point I need to give this lady some money because what she had done for me was incredible. She didn't have to stop. She didn't have to come and help a stranger. So I bent over and looked in the back of my vehicle to pull out my wallet. As I pulled my head out of the car, I looked behind me, and she was gone. I looked all around me. I couldn't see her. I couldn't see her truck behind me. I couldn't see her truck in front of me. I hadn't heard her take off. There was no noise indicating that this person was taken off. I was very confused. The only thing I knew is that the whole time this woman was there, I felt reassured. I felt so much at peace. And it's kind of like I knew everything was going to be fine at that point. I decided to walk over to where her truck was. And I looked in the sand. And there was no tire tracks. Now, for a long time, I kept this story to myself. Because I didn't know if anybody would believe me. Many years later, I was talking with a friend, and that's when I found out that I'm not the only one that's had Earth Angels encounters. Now, if you have a story you'd like to share with me, or with the other people that are listening to this episode, please feel free to send it in. And if you haven't, like I said, if you haven't had an experience yet, it doesn't mean you won't have one. Now, Earth Angels are all around us. You'll recognize them by their kindness, by the love they share, by their soothing presence. You'll recognize them because they're free of ego. They don't fear. They don't hate. They're not violent. They're just loving and caring. I hope this story helped you identify if you've encountered an Earth Angel before. And I wish you a fantastic week filled with many, many blessings. Love and light.